Sponsored by College of Applied Business, CAB, Gangahiti, Chawahil, Kathmandu.
Global College of Management, an excellent center for management studies.
Ecotech, Nepal Sangai, Aghi Bardai.
National College, Kathmandu.
Hello and namaste everyone. Welcome to The Connection. The Connection is about the socio-economic lives of people. Today we talk of the Himalayas. To talk of Himalayas, we have with us Dr. Eklabya Sharma. He is the Deputy Director General of ICIMOD, International Center for Integrated Mountain Development. Welcome, Dr. Sharma.
Thank you.
Sir, could you please tell me how we understand ICIMOD as a Himalayan people?
ICIMOD, the International Center for Integrated Mountain Development, has been established about 34 years ago for the mountains and for the people living in the mountains as well as people who are living in the adjoining areas. So the mountains, the Hindu Kush Himalayan region, which is covered by 8 countries, that starts from Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, China, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh and Myanmar. Here the 8 countries have mountains, which is very, very important mountains, and these mountains provide enormous resources, water resources, bioresources like biodiversity, and people's livelihoods are very much dependent on these resources, both in mountains and downstreams. So in this context, so for general people, public, I think it is important to understand nature, the environment and people and the livelihoods are very much connected. So in the connection, I think what we have to see is that we try to manage these resources in a connected way, and also we need to connect people.
What are the current focus areas of ICIMOD? What particularly are they doing in the Himalayas right now?
So there are 3 strategic impact areas which I would like to mention here. From ICIMOD's program, while working in 8 countries, we try to contribute to this. The number 1 strategic impact is poverty reduction. So we try to contribute through our works with the people, with the governments, with many development partners to address the issues of poverty. So this is number 1. Number 2, we try to enhance resilience of the people living both in mountains and downstreams, specifically looking into vulnerabilities, both physical vulnerabilities and social vulnerabilities. When I say physical, it's like floods. So from the mountains, floods are generated and people in the downstreams are at risk. So in that context, physical and social, you know, people are very poor, and in many cases or many areas in the mountains, there are poverty pockets, the development don't reach there. So in that context, they are more vulnerable than other people. So this is number 2. And number 3, very importantly, in the Hindu Kush Himalayan region, of this Himalayan region, we see enormous resources, I said. So the ecosystem services, so water related issues, biodiversity, and even the agriculture, non-timber forest products, medicinal and aromatic plants in the mountains, all these resources are very important. And these are the services which the mountains provide to the people. And interestingly, if you see the impact areas from this, 240 million people live in the mountains, 1.9 billion people live in the downstreams of this mountain region. 10 rivers originate. So Brahmaputra, Ganga, our Kosi in Nepal meets into Ganga basin. So like that, we have 10 major rivers. So there is a very strong connection of mountains and downstreams. So these are the impact areas in which ICIMOD works.
So why actually the mountains?
Mountains haven't received any attention in the development for very long. And now as climate change is happening, temperatures are rising. Actually in higher mountain areas, the rate of rise of temperature is much higher than plain areas. So the impact of climate change is much higher in mountain areas than otherwise, than the global average. So in this context, say mountains needs to be managed, number 1. Number 2, I think the resources that mountains provide is quite critical and important. And when we look our region, the 8 countries, the Hindu Kush Himalayan region, and especially mountains, here these mountains are actually, these countries are in a very conflicting situation, whether for natural resources or even for other issues. So if we see certain global parameters like least developed countries, so out of 8 ICIMOD countries, 4 are least developed countries. So that means we need to bring development to the mountains, number one. Number two, we have the peace index. So if you see global peace index, which we have seen 2016-17, for this region, there are 5 countries which are low or very low in terms of peace index. So that also shows that we need to work here. Number 3, the fragile state index means fragility. So in that context also, 5 out of 8 are in sensitive and very sensitive fragile state condition. So that means mountains is something which needs to be managed. If we don't manage mountains, there will be more disasters, there will be water resource deficit, scarcity in the downstreams. And the food that is produced from the Indo-Gangetic plain, Indus and other rivers of this region caters to 3 to 4 billion people. That means almost half of humanity. That means if mountains are not managed, in the Kush Himalayan region not managed, so large half of the population of the world will be impacted. So in that context, the mountains is critical and very, very important, and I think that is why ICIMOD has been established to work in the mountains and relate it to the downstreams.
So if such a large population is influenced by the mountains, then why is it not that addressed in the policy level?
I think this is a very, very good question. I would say over the years, I would say the governments of these 8 countries didn't realize the importance of mountains. Whenever I say, I mean, not all countries, but those big countries like China, India, and even in Bangladesh, Chittagong Hill Tract is very small, or Pakistan. So now as climate change is happening, and there was a IPCC report which said in 2007 that all the glaciers of the Himalayas will be disappearing by 2035. So that actually raised a big question. And after that, ICIMOD started doing lots of studies, and good information has been generated. Those information has gone to the countries. Now, see, countries are taking a lot of interest. China, in One Belt, One Road, they are focusing, there are a lot of programs in the Tibetan Plateau and in the Silk Road, which crosses the Hindu-Kush Himalayan region. Similarly, India, the Modi government has put $20 million for Himalayan studies, which clearly shows the interest of India. And in India, in their 8th 5-year plan, in their action plan for climate change, they have identified 8 missions, and only 1 mission is geographical focus, and that is Himalayan region. So clearly these big countries are realizing the importance of Himalayan region mountains. So I am very glad now more and more ownership is coming, more and more realization, but the policies are still not mountain specific. So we need to really see, and there has been some good policy changes.
So ICIMOD as a intergovernment resource organization and action network, has it contributed to this policy making directly, or even to people's level, at the grassroots level directly?
I have to give you example, this rangeland policy. So ICIMOD worked with the Ministry of Agriculture, and when we talk about rangeland, so there is forest also very much, because much of the area in the mountains are under forest department. But the rangeland livestock is with the Agriculture Ministry. So rangeland management is a very interesting topic. So ICIMOD worked with Ministry of Agriculture to develop a rangeland policy. Now one big problem which Nepal was facing is that the herders, poor herders who used to migrate from mountains to down hill areas during winter, because of community forestry, those middle hill forests have been actually under community forestry. They didn't allow the herders, the yak herders, to come down. So because of that, there was a conflict. So in order to address such issues, I think rangeland policy was very, very important. The consultation with the people, actually there has been many consultations that has been done to when we were developing rangeland policy. So one good example, but I think I would like to give another example of Myanmar. So in Myanmar, when ICIMOD was working, we found that I think the country has just opened. There were many possibilities. So we found, I think there is an opportunity to work with two ministries, Ministry of Tourism and Hotel Management and the Ministry of Environmental Conservation, and then there is a policy that has been developed as ecotourism in protected areas. So that is a very interesting policy where two ministries have come together and we have been able to make a very good impact, and now that policy is implemented.
You talked of livelihood too as one of the working areas of ICIMOD. Could you explain what specific Himalayan interventions have ICIMOD done over the past few years?
I think livelihood, that is also very, very important, I think, question. So when we look into the mountain areas, so when I say mountain, it's hills and mountains. So from ICIMOD's definition, so here people in the mountains, see, they cannot have the agriculture for paddy, rice cultivation or wheat, and then they cannot come out of subsistence farming. So they have to go for some other forms of farming which can bring better cash return. So then we have a concept in ICIMOD that high value products. So ICIMOD works on high value products. So right now if you go to Godavari, ICIMOD has a knowledge park. You can see number of such products. One is of course kiwi fruit. So you can go to Ilam and you can see there is so much of kiwi fruit is produced now. Number of people from there, they got training in ICIMOD. We have shiitake mushroom, very much, mushroom which is grown on the logs of a tree. And that cultivation has spread from ICIMOD site here to many countries. Now, right now in Sikkim, the ground apple, yakun, which is a very interesting high value product, is actually being cultivated and processed in Sikkim by a very young entrepreneurs. So you can see there are high value products that needs to be developed. I would like to give one example of large cardamom. So here, if you see, large cardamom used to be cultivated mostly in Sikkim and Darjeeling, then it spread to southern Bhutan, then also to eastern Nepal. Now Nepal is the highest, biggest cultivator of large cardamom, and in the large cardamom it fits mountain perspective, mountain specificity very much. So large cardamom is a cash crop. It's a low volume, high value. It is non-perishable. Once you dry it, it is non-perishable. It is also not labor intensive. So because it is perennial, 20 years or like that, it not. It grows under shade like Uttisko tree, alnus tree. So it protects the soil and conserves the soil, and it also conserves water. So it is really a mountain specificity loving cropping system which can give lots of benefit to the people. If you see Sikkim's at one point of time, all secretaries were the children of the cardamom farmers, because it was giving lot of money, so they were able to send their children to English boarding schools in Darjeeling, and they were able to, just because of one cash crop, that is large cardamom. But now there was lot of problem. So what ICIMOD has done is really diversifying the product from a large cardamom. One is capsule itself, so and then making other products, even spice tourism. So if some people are going there, so they can have spice tourism also in cardamom cultivating areas, or cultivating cardamom with kiwis, cultivating cardamom with other crops also has come. So these are some of the diversification. Major problem in large cardamom now, when I talk about bringing benefit to the people, it's still market is informal. So now the regional countries, the governments have to come together, and large cardamom export has to have a formal market system. So that is what ICIMOD is trying to develop.
Can this be done for other traditionally cultured products or not?
Yes, definitely. We in Kailash landscape, we have a transboundary landscape which is in the far western of Nepal, 4 districts, and then Tibetan autonomous region of China, and then of course Uttarakhand. So in that area we have been working on many value chains, very important high value products. One is chiwri honey. So honey very much actually coming from the chiwri plant. So that is a very specific product which we developed. More importantly, what we have found is that we are working with Sabha. You know Sabha Nepal, and they are actually helping the social entrepreneurs, and actually from nettle plant and aloe. Lots of products are actually being processed and marketed by Sabha from the Kailash landscape. So we try to see and bridge our national partners like Sabha, social entrepreneuring organization, and others to really help farmers. So ICIMOD brings knowledge across. Another important, very important value chain is yak. Product value chains. So you have yak cheese, you can have yak meat, you can have yak wool. So in Pakistan, in China, we are and now in Sikkim, and maybe if you in future in Nepal, we are going to work on this. We are already working in some of the countries as value chains. So we are looking into all these products important, and we try to exchange between the countries. So this is what is beauty of ICIMOD, you know. So we work in many countries. What is good in China can be brought easily to Nepal, and what is good in Nepal can go to easily to Pakistan. So this is the beauty of ICIMOD.
So you mentioned a lot of possibilities from tourism to import and export. So is there potential for the involvement of youths in this case so that it runs for a sustainable time?
I think one of the biggest challenges this region is facing is how to retain youths in the mountain. So I would say there are many opportunities and potentials, but somehow that is not realized. We don't have institution and governance which allows that. So just taking example, I was talking about Sikkim. So there, the 2 youths have come together. Educated in UK, masters in UK in York University. Another one is masters in engineering from India. They went back to Sikkim, and one of them came to ICIMOD and they got training. And now you will not believe 300 farmers have been mobilized on yakun, which is ground apple, and shiitake mushroom, and they have established a factory, almost spending more than $100,000 US already at the age of about 30. And now they are making a very good livelihoods for themselves, but also to 300 farmers. So there are possibilities, enormous possibilities. It's question of linking, it's question of looking into the government institutions providing good facilities where the youth can make use of that.
Does it come under ICIMOD's working area?
I think it comes. I think more and more we have to see how youth can be engaged very much and they can be retained. So what I very strongly feel, why youth and people migrate? There is a huge migration. One is definitely, we know from Nepal and mountains, they migrate for livelihoods. If we provide opportunities for livelihoods, this is one. The other is for education and for access. Now world is globalized, everybody has mobile. And if we can provide good programs, good information, and people are able to be educated right in their villages and in mountains, or so they would not they may not leave if there is a better opportunities or some good opportunities coming. So it is the challenge for many institutions, including like ICIMOD and other institutions and the governments and also the development partners, to really see how we develop programs for the youth.
And has multinational companies or corporate houses too posed a challenge for ICIMOD in the extraction of raw materials?
I think what we normally see is that there are many entrepreneurs directly not involved with ICIMOD, but they look for the resources. If you just see many multinational Ayurvedic medicinal institutions, so you just refer to Indian Himalayan region, most of the Himalayan plants, herbal plants, they have been extracted. So they have not been sustainably used in the past. So now the government regulation is very, very strict that you cannot extract. So the government have to become strong, harsher. But I think, in my opinion, what has to be done is we have to have a better business model, but very much thinking of environment conservation. Environment has to be, safeguards has to be considered in any business plan. So ICIMOD, in our new plan, so we are actually very much working on partnership and specifically focusing on private sector engagement, so that the business models can come, the business can actually help the people, help the youth, and help the many possibilities for the people living in the mountains. So there are opportunities, and recently we had a big meeting concerning the business very much, and ICIMOD would like to take all steps to see that how the private sector can responsibly work with the people, so that the benefits also trickle down and the farmers and the people in the mountain gets better share of what they produce.
So in this course, have we talked of SDGs and how ICIMOD contribute to the SDGs?
So SDGs, if we look, see there are 17 SDGs. So if you see, some of them are very specific to ICIMOD. So ICIMOD works in a regional cooperation. One SDG is on cooperation. So that is very much ICIMOD's mandate. Then, but we also have partnerships. So ICIMOD, we are in 8 countries. But our main institution is only in Kathmandu. So in Nepal and other places, we have to work with the partnership. So there is a very strong partnership model that we follow. So that is another SDG. But very important SDG is on poverty, on hunger, water, related agriculture, related to climate. So all these are quite important element of ICIMOD's work. So what we have done in our 5-year plan, we have really mapped out SDGs, and not only at the goal level, but really looking into the targets and how we contribute. So this is one part, how ICIMOD is working. But we are also working with the countries like India. They are developing their own SDG plan, how they would. In Nepal, it was they have been working. So we are putting our efforts, and we will try to see that when India is reporting about SDGs, let them report about the mountains, how the SDGs have been achieved in the mountains. This is what we are targeting.
So there is a need for localization,
yes,
and ICIMOD will certainly play a major role.
Major role, yes, yes, very much. SDG, I mean, it's a global agreement, regional understanding, but the action has to be locally, at national, subnational and local level. So ultimately the reporting can come from nation, but the action has to happen in every district, has to happen in every province. In the case of Nepal now it's changing. So we have to see that the actions are at that level, not at a very broader level.
So thank you so much, sir, for your wonderful insights into what ICIMOD is doing and about the Himalayan areas and their livelihood. We now put an end to this show, and we'll meet next week with another story of socio-economic lives of any other parts of Nepal. Till then, goodbye. Thank you so much.
Sponsored by College of Applied Business, CAB, Gangahiti, Chawahil, Kathmandu.
Global College of Management, an excellent center for management studies.
इकोटेक नेपाल सँगै अघि बढ्दै.
National College, Kathmandu.